Hey guys, Cheryl Pace here. So today I wanted to talk to you about one of those success principles that I was talking to you about yesterday. But before we get into it, I really want you to think of these principles kind of like the combination to a lock. Okay? So regardless of your finances, regardless of your ethnicity, regardless of your IQ, if you know the combination to that lock, it's going to open. So the thing is that a lot of people are walking around and they don't know the combination to the lock. Think of the combination kind of as a recipe. My grandmother used to make wonderful lasagna, and if I followed that recipe to a T, it would come out really, really good. So Jack Canfield wrote a book called The Principles of Success, and there's about 64 principles in there. But he just talks about the main ones, and he says if you follow these principles and apply them, keyword apply, you can double your income, you can double your time off, and you can create a balance between your work life and your personal life. So if you could do that, would you do it? I know I would. So let's take a look at this principle. So before I go into it though, Jim Rohn, who is a really famous and successful motivational speaker and entrepreneur, once said, you cannot hire someone else to do your push-ups. And what he means by that is, yes, there are certain things that you can delegate, but there are certain things, if you want to get ahead in life, you are going to be the one that has to do the work. So if you want results, you're going to have to put in the time and the effort. So the first principle is this: you have to take 100% responsibility for your life and for your results, which means you have to give up the blame game, you have to stop complaining, you have to give up all of your excuses. You can't say, well, if we had a different president, or if the economy was better, or if the world was a different place, my life would be going pretty well. You can't do that anymore. And here's a little formula that's going to help you to understand that. Now, don't judge my handwriting because I had to write backwards, but it says E plus R equals O. Events in your life plus your responses equal the outcome. So everything in your life, whether you love it or you hate it, is an outcome of your response to earlier events. Okay, I'm going to put that aside because I'm going to show you that again later. But for example, I have 3 kids, and on their birthday, their grandparents like to give them money. So that is the event. They got money. Now their responses are very different. My oldest son might go out and spend all of his money on like a skateboard. Okay, it might give him hours and hours of fun, but that's what he chooses to do. My second son might go out and buy music equipment so he can make music and then sell the music and make money, right? So that's a different response with a different outcome. And then my daughter might just put hers in her dresser drawer and save it until she has enough money to buy something bigger, okay? So the event is the same, but there's 3 different responses, and then there's 3 different outcomes. Now, an example that Jack Canfield gives during his live presentation is he chooses someone in the front row, and he said, Mary, out of all the people in the world that I know, you are the biggest idiot. Now, and then he says, who thinks that that raised her self-esteem? Okay, nobody raised their hand. Who thinks that that might have lowered her self-esteem? Well, if you raise your hand, you weren't paying attention to the formula. Because this person, Mary, one response to this event might be, well, how did he know? How did he know that I was such an idiot? But another response might be, well, he's just picking on me because I'm the one in the front row, and they always pick on the people that are in the front row. And besides, I'm a really attractive person, and, he probably is just focusing on me anyway, and he doesn't have a very good, he just doesn't even know what he's talking about. So does it really matter what somebody says or does? Not really. What matters is your response. And if you don't like the response, if you don't like the outcome, then you can just change your response. As a matter of fact, it's your responsibility. Okay? Responsibility is the ability to change your response. So it takes a lot of trial and error, I agree. But if you try a certain response and it doesn't give you the outcome that you want, there's about 50,000 other things you can do. So try something else. Think of life as an experiment. Okay, so here's a last little story to kind of hit everything home. Okay, there was this Lexus dealer during the Gulf War. And during the Gulf War, people were really holding on to their income. They didn't want to spend extra money. They certainly weren't going to buy a luxury car. And so the Lexus dealer was having a big issue, right? He was losing money, or he was in the trajectory of really losing a lot of money. So he got his team together and he said, we need to figure out something to do. So they came up with about 4 different ideas, and one of them really worked, and it was this. They would go to different parties and different events in the Lexus. And they would go in and they would mingle and they would ask people, so what do you do? And the person would say, oh, well, I work in a bank, or I do this or I do that. And of course, to be polite, they would say, what do you do? And so the Lexus dealer said, oh, well, I am a Lexus dealer. Have you ever ridden in a Lexus? Have you ever driven a Lexus? And if the person said, well, no, then they would say, well, why don't you come out? We have one in the driveway. You can test drive it. So the people would test drive this luxury Lexus, and then they would get out of the Lexus, and then they would have to get into their own car afterwards. And can you imagine how it feels to get into your car? Well, you might have a nice car. Mine, I have a Honda CRV. But anyway, if I test drove this nice Lexus and then I got back into my Honda CRV, I probably wouldn't love my little Honda as much as I did like 10 minutes ago, right? And that's what happened. They sold Lexuses to 60% of the people that test drove the car. So they didn't like their outcome. They changed the response and it worked for them. So anyway, in closing, just remember that success principle number 1. Take 100% responsibility for your life and for your outcome. And just remember, that's what I wanted to do. Remember the formula, E + R = O. Okay. I know you do. I remember. Hi, Greg. Yeah, I remember that you got a Lexus. I remember that. Is it awesome? I want to hear about that. All right. You guys have a wonderful day. Next week, I'm going to do success principle number 2. I can't wait to see you. If you got any value out of this, I would love it if you would give me a thumbs up, give me a comment, maybe share it. Definitely share it. And I'll see you guys later. Have an awesome day.